Hello and welcome to The World is Fucked. I am one of your hosts, Jade Rivers. The first thing you can probably tell is that R.C. Adams is not around me. Long story short, I had some financial problems and I had to move here to Parkersburg, West Virginia to live with my parents for a little bit because as all good parents do, they're helping me out while I get back up on my feet. So for the moment we are separated. It's been a long time since our last video. We actually made a two-parter about the do's and don'ts, as if there are any don'ts, of vulgarity, and we had to take it down because something was wrong with YouTube that day, and it was really shitty. The quality was horrible. So we just decided to skip it. You guys all know our stance on vulgarity, so we all just decided to move on and to our next topic. And our next topic right now is equal rights. It's a hot-button issue in mainstream media right now. And it actually all got launched by a story that you guys have probably all heard. The owner of the world-famous Chik-Fil-A fast food restaurant, Mr. Dan Cathy, was doing an interview on a radio show called The Ken Coleman Show, and he was asked about his stance on gay marriage. And since I don't have RC here to help me out, my computer's going to be my best friend for this episode, so I'm going to read you the quote from here. Mr. Dan Cathy said on the show, quote, "We are inviting God's judgment on our nation when we shake our fist at him and say we know better than you as to what constitutes a marriage. And I pray God's mercy on our generation that has had such a prideful, arrogant attitude that thinks we have the audacity to redefine what marriage is all about." End quote.
Really?
I mean, let me just absorb this for a second. Dan Cathy, a Christian, the most arrogant religion on this earth, is telling me that my sinful, arrogant, prideful attitude is trying to redefine what marriage is all about, and I should be ashamed of myself for telling God that I know better. First of all, I haven't said a word to God. You know why?
Because he doesn't exist.
And secondly, what gives you any more right to shake your fist at me and tell me that my sinful pride is ruining this country? Now, the next thing I would like to do before we move on is I would like to just read the first line of this country's Declaration of Independence. It says, and I quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the olive branch right now, and I'm going to do all the Christians a favor. I'm going to go to Wikipedia, and I'm going to put it in the way they would have it put in, just to save them all some time. Just hold on. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unless you're gay. I mean, that's basically what Dan Cathy is saying. Gay men and women have no right to get married because this says they're not allowed to. And anyone who thinks otherwise is going to hell. Fuck that. Now, everyone knows that Dan Cathy says this because since he created the restaurant, he's a heavy Christian, and he believes that you shouldn't work on Sundays, all that jazz. He even, when the Olympics were in Atlanta in 1996, he actually still kept his stores closed on Sunday, which costed him millions of dollars in business. And, you know, this whole idea makes sense because we all know that the only thing Jesus Christ loves more than your unconditional, mindless following of his made-up, unproven word
Is chicken.
Now, let me just give you my stance on equal rights real quick. First of all, neither me or RC is gay. I'm just not. I don't have a girlfriend right now, but I'm not. And RC has a girlfriend and a kid. Neither one of us are homosexual. We just believe that homosexuals have just as much of a right to marry who they want to marry as straight people do. They all came out of their mother's vagina just like we did. They weren't birthed as slaves. I mean, gay people are becoming the new black people of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even still some today. It's like people have to have someone to hate.
Why?
We do have friends that are gay, and they are some of the best men I know, and I would trust them with my lives. They're hilarious, they're talented, and I would have no objection. If they got married tomorrow, I would be at their wedding in my best tuxedo watching them. What does it bother for anyone to have gay neighbors, to have a gay couple living next to them? What's the difference in looking out the window and seeing Dan and Julie Johnson out gardening and seeing Dan and Stan Johnson gardening? They love each other. They want to be together. What is the fucking point? And I would just like to point out to Dan Cathy that, I wouldn't wish any kind of ill will towards anyone, no matter how angry or infuriated I am at them. But I hope someday that Dan Cathy can learn his lesson somehow. Maybe his house sets on fire. Maybe one of his restaurants sets on fire. Maybe the spaghetti monster in the sky forbid, he has a heart attack. I hope that it is a homosexual doctor, fireman, paramedic that saves his life or his stores. And then we'll see just who deserves to be married and who doesn't. Now, Christianity's stance on homosexuality is that it's an evil, unforgivable sin. If you have sex or lay with, as this says it, Jesus. Anyway, if you lay with anyone of your own sex, you should be burned, killed, firing squad, beat to death with clubs. However they want to do it, you should be put to death. Now, today's Christians may not be as extreme, but just saying that you follow a book that says anyone who has sex with another man should be put to death, they think that people choose to be gay. It is a scientific fact, and I don't know if RC was better. I really miss him. If RC was here, he could explain it better. But it is a chemical imbalance in a man or a woman that gives them slightly more testosterone or slightly more, the word escapes me, of the female version of testosterone. I'm sorry. I really wish RC was here. That makes them gay or lesbian. People don't just come out, I know some people like vagina, but that dick looks really good to me. No, they have a chemical imbalance that makes them, men, for example, makes them more like women than they are like men. And that's just all there is to it. It's scientific. Oh no, I said the word science. Oh, okay. Never mind. I didn't know if there were any Christians within earshot or not. I didn't know if I should be expected to be hit with fucking lightning. Alright, so as with anything that has to do with Christianity, we do have Bible verses to go over. And I have studied. I didn't just make these up. I'm going to read them straight from the King James Version of the Holy Bible. And these are verses that some people have a hard time finding that reference sexuality. The first one is going to be Genesis chapter 19. Verses 1 through 11. Now, this is just a quick story here, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to try and put my own words into it to make it easier for you guys to understand. So here it is. And there came two angels in Sodom, and Lot sat, and Lot is a man. Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Lot saw them, rose up to meet them, and he basically said, hey, why don't you come to my house? The two angels said, no, we'll just stay out here in the square. And he said, no, I insist, please come into my house. So they decided to do it, and they went in. They did the traditional thing back then of washing each other's feet, and they sat and ate. And then before they laid down, the men of the city surrounded the house, both old and young, and from every section of the town. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. Which I've looked at the translation to see what know them means. Know them means have sex with them. So there's a group of men surrounding Lot's house saying, where's those two men you just let in? We want to have sex with them. And Lot went out to the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brothers, do not do such a wicked act. Behold, now I have 2 daughters, 2 virgin daughters. Let them be, I pray you, but bring my daughters out unto you, and do unto them as you see good in your eyes. Only do not do these men any harm. They have come under the shadows of my roof. What? I mean, first of all, they just basically described homosexuals as an angry mob. I have never, ever heard a news report of a mob of homosexual men surrounding anyone's house saying, hey, that guy that just came into your house, bring him out. We want to touch his wiener. That doesn't happen. It didn't happen back then. Back then, it was... You were put to death for thinking you were gay. So why would any gay men go to anyone's doorstep and say, bring that man out? And did you hear what this guy did? He said, no, don't be gay with these men. I'd rather you have sex with my daughters. God, that's fucked up. Okay, so now moving on to the second verse that I had here is going to be the book of Judges, also chapter 19. I guess there's an affiliation with homophobia in the chapter 19 in the Bible. It's going to be verses 16 through 24. And this is a similar story, but I just thought I'd go ahead and tell this one too since it's in here. This old man sees this wear-fang man on the street. He invites him into his house. They wash their feet, they ate and drank, and before they went to bed, just like in the other story, a group of men surrounded their house and said, bring those guys out. We want to fuck them. For whatever reason, the Bible is placing this angry gay mob in front of this guy's house. This is ridiculous. And the fucked up part about this story is not only does he offer his daughter, he offers this woman that's traveling with the other man to send out. And they take the woman that was traveling with the man. And they took the women, brought her forth unto the woman. I'm sorry, it was just the woman that was traveling with the wear-fang man. They took her, abused her all night until the morning. So from sundown to sunset, they apparently raped and beat this woman. And then when they left, the woman, in the dawning of the day, fell down at the door of the man's house where her lord was till it was light. And the guy went out to check on her, called to her, tried to wake her up, and she didn't wake up. Apparently, the gay men that were trying to get at them beat this woman mercilessly, which is ridiculous again. And you know what he did? He didn't take this woman, and he didn't bury her, and he didn't go out and have a service like Christians are so heavy on doing. He took this woman, chopped her into 12 pieces, bone, skin, meat, and all, and divided her pieces out into the coasts of Israel.
What the fuck?
Oh, man, I'm already tired of this, but we're going to read another one. It's Leviticus 20, chapter 13. This may be the most ridiculous one, and this is just to prove that when I said they put homosexuals to death in the Bible days, I'm not making that up. Leviticus chapter 20 verse 13 simply says, if a man should lie with another man as if he were lying with a woman, both have committed an abomination, and they shall surely be put to death, and their blood shall be upon them. So basically what this is saying is if you have sex with another man, you committed the worst sin ever, and we're going to kill you, but it's not our fault. Your own blood is on your hands because you should have known better. So now moving to the book of Romans. Man, this book pisses me off sometimes. So, chapter 1, and I have verses 18 through 32 marked down. I don't know if I'm going to have to read all of it. Let's see here. Basically, what the message that Romans chapter 1, 18 through 32 portrays is that God has given you the option of either loving Him or going into sin. And He's basically saying that anyone who decides they want to commit sins, and it lists in here, the reason I have this in here is that it lists in here being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, and it lists here homosexuality. If you commit any of these acts, it's your fault. And the very last verse says, anyone knowing the judgment of God, but which they commit such things, are worthy of death. Not only should they die, but the people who kill them should have pleasure in it. So basically, not only if you're gay, but if you commit any sins that God doesn't want you to fucking commit, you're going to die, we're going to kill you, and we're going to enjoy doing it. I mean, can you imagine that? People surrounding a man with knives and rocks, and smile as big as the Joker, telling them it's your fault, and people laughing, and it just makes me sick thinking about it. So then the final one that I have here is the book of Jude. This is the smallest chapter in the Bible. You can see the entire chapter here on these 2 pages. It's one chapter. It's right before this final book of Revelation, which me and RC are going to have to talk about someday. But the book of Jude, you'll probably never hear us refer to again because it's one chapter and it's only got one point in it that I really want to point out. It's verse 7. And what Jude does is it basically, before it tells you what's going to happen when you die, it tells you what you shouldn't do, how you can avoid going to hell, and what you need to do to get into heaven. And in verse 7, it references Sodom and Gomorrah, the infamous men in the Bible who partook of each other's flesh. And it says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. And when they say eternal fire, they're not just referencing hell. In other versions of the Bible, people have actually set the entire city around Sodom and Gomorrah on fire to prove how wrong being homosexual is and laying with another man as you would a woman. They set entire cities on fire. I mean, that's like if a man from this town went and robbed a bank and I didn't agree with the fact that he robbed a bank. That's like if I just went around the city of Parkersburg just throwing matches out the window and lighting everything on fire with a sign on my door that says, "Don't rob banks." Who would follow this? I'll never understand in my life. And as if I haven't had enough of this, I have more verses. I'm going to read these off of a website that I found because they're easier to understand, and you guys need to hear this. And you know what? Each verse that I read is another count to our Holy Bible contradiction count. And we had 3 up to this point, so this is going to add up to 6. And you'll know why, and I'll explain why. The first one is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. Wait for it. It does not insist on its own way. Did I just hear that in a Bible verse? Love does not insist on its own way. Being in love with God basically means that you have to give everything you have to Him, and you have to go and you have to tell everyone how good God is and how they're going to hell if they don't do what you do. If telling someone be a Christian or burn in hell is not insisting on your own way, then I really don't know what is. The next one, Ephesians chapter 4, verses 2 through 3. With all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of spirit and the bond of peace. Peace? If Christians like Dan Cathy wanted peace, they wouldn't go on public radio and say that anyone who shakes their fist at God and tells him we know marriage better and they should be punished, and he prays that our prideful sins are washed away. That's not peace. That's starting shit. And last but not least, we have, well, I guess all of them are least. Fuck. We have Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 48. You have heard it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even tax collectors do the same? I like how they have tax collectors as basically Satan's minions. Don't even tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even Gentiles greet others? Or do not even Gentiles greet their brothers only? You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. This basically is saying exactly what I'm trying to say. Love everyone. Don't just love people that are in your group. And I know that I sound like a hypocrite for saying that, but I wouldn't be attacking Christians if Dan Cathy didn't come out and attack people who aren't like him first. We aren't going to sit quietly. The equal rights community is not going to sit quietly and let people say that if you don't think like me, then you're unjust and your sinful pride is bringing this country down. Fuck you. This world should be at peace. We should all love each other the same. It rains on us all. We're all born. We all die. So why can't people who want to love another man or another woman, why can't they be just as happy? Just please explain that to me. And that is why all 3 of the verses that I just read, presented to you by The World is Fucked, have been 3 examples of more contradictions in the Bible. We're up to 6, and if we keep doing the show, we're going to find hundreds more, ladies and gentlemen. So there's not only homophobia in Christianity, there is homophobia everywhere. Even people who haven't seen a day of church in their lives think that being anywhere near a gay person is going to give them a disease. Piece of knowledge, ladies and gentlemen. Gay is not transferable. Thank you for listening. Homophobes are everywhere. There's a stereotype that it's only rednecks, people in the South that do it, but they're everywhere. And in pop culture, it's the worst because they have the means of voicing their opinions. I just saw a story on Facebook the other day. Paris Hilton. Yeah, I know a lot of you probably just shut this video off because I said Paris Hilton's name. Paris Hilton released a quote. I don't see where it says anywhere where it was, but she allegedly said, quote, "Gay guys are the horniest people in the world. They're disgusting, dude. Most of them probably have AIDS." Really? Most of them probably have AIDS? Ladies and gentlemen, you know that I'm not a Christian, but if any of you can find a statement that is more hypocritical than that one, I'll bow down and start praying right now. Let me just say one thing, and let me make it very clear. Paris Hilton, I have a message for you.
Nobody cares what you fucking think.
Oh, wait. I'm getting notified in my imaginary earpiece that we're getting a call via satellite. Oh, it's apparently Paris Hilton wanting to explain her comments. Now, she did come out and say through GLAAD days later, "Gay people are the strongest and most inspiring people I know. I cannot put into words how much I wish I could take back every word." So, Paris, if you didn't mean what you said in the first place, why did you say what you said? Why were you so adamant about it? And why were you so degrading about it?
You know what? Fuck it. I think the extent of your thinking is probably money, penises, puppies, and rainbows. God, you're irritating.
Well, didn't get anything out of her. Maybe we should all just spend one night in Paris to see what's really in her head.
Let me see your gun.
Yeah.
Let me see your gun. Let me see your beaver, huh?
This world really is fucked. So, in closing, this entire spiel has been about what we pick on religion about so much. I mean, if this book wasn't flat out telling people who read it to hate homosexuals, we'd have nothing to worry about except ignorant homophobes that hate for no reason. Christians think they have a reason to hate homosexuals. It's because this book says so. That's like if I read an X-Men comic and hated anyone who was born with a birth deformity because the X-Men comic says mutants are bad. It's the same principle. The X-Men go into hiding in costumes and masks because the world hates mutants. So if I picked up X-Men #1 and then came back out and said anyone who's born with a birth deformity or birth abnormality is going to burn in hell because they're not like me, that's the same fucking thing, and anyone who says it isn't is full of shit. So, hopefully in the next video we can avoid religion. This one may not have been as comedic. I mean, I hope you got a laugh or two out of it. I hope that you leave your comments telling me what you think, even if you disagree. We're not going to delete the comments if you disagree. We like conversation. We're just right and you're wrong. But if you disagree, let us know. We really don't mind. In closing, please tolerate. You don't have to love it. You don't have to love everybody. You can hate people for choices they make, but not for stuff they can't control. A man who is gay, a woman who is gay, are born gay, and they can't help it. I mean, what good would it do if they had to pretend that they were attracted to the sex they're not attracted to? I mean, imagine if you're watching this and you're taking the opposite point of view of mine. Imagine if you were dropped on an alien planet where everyone was still human, but it was the normal thing to have sex with anybody of your same gender. Imagine if you were hated and put down because you liked to be with the other gender. I mean, seriously, think about it. Think about how you're making gay people feel. No one cares. No one cares. And that's why me and RC take this point of view. Gay people and lesbians are people just like us. They're just attracted to the same gender. They hurt. People have committed suicide over not being accepted. So this Bible wants to tell us that if you're gay, you should be put to death. And the people that kill you should enjoy it. And the blood is on your hands because you were gay. You shouldn't have been gay. We wouldn't have killed you. Think about that next time you read a story of a kid committing suicide because the kids at his school made fun of him for being gay. So, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed my input. And, as always, for everything fucked in this world, and for everything stupid in this world, fuck